never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Beautiful people, how are you? Hope you had a wonderful weekend. A little wet around my part of the world, which wasn't very good if you had to pack up a little car and get ready to drive a couple of 1,000 kilometres, but that's what Laura wound up doing over the weekend. Yes, I'm hopeful I'm able to speak about it. I think I will be okay. I've got to say, one of the harder weekends that I've had in a while. Thank you, Tony. Yes, I am still alive after Laura left for Victoria. Yesterday was a very hard day, but she headed off today and has made it as far as Port Macquarie, where she and the dog are very happily ensconced tonight. And they're catching up with some friends tomorrow a little further south. And she's got a good another couple of days on the road ahead of her yet before she gets where she's going. So I trust her driving skills implicitly, but as you know, it's the dickheads that you've got to keep an eye out for. They're the dangerous ones, the ones that do dickhead things, and you wind up becoming involved through no fault of your own. And I guess we all worry about our kids on the roads, regardless of what age they are, I'm finding out, or what sort of driving experience. And I really do trust Laura as a driver. I taught her. So, you know, of course I trust her. Stupid thing, but no, I've driven many thousands of kilometers with her and asleep in the passenger seat beside while she's been driving, you know, overnight or wherever we've been going. So happy about all of that. It's just been difficult. I likened it to the time that her mother and I broke up and they moved from Queensland to Victoria. I found it about as hard, but I've grown up, put my big boy pants on, realised that she's not dead and she hasn't moved to the other side of the world. And Victoria is a place I do tend to spend a bit of time in from time to time. So now I've just got a reason to go down and spend some more. And I've got a sneaking suspicion that Victoria Rastan is going to probably not be too impressive to her for a variety of reasons. Very hard to get work down there at the moment. And she's very keen to get some work, obviously. And winter's coming. I think that'll play a large role in how long she stays down there. Fingers crossed. But it'll be great for her to be near her other side of the family. And she wants to be Auntie Laura to her new niece, and I think it's niece and nephew, and new chapter of her life. So great. We've all got that for our kids, I guess. And I'm very excited for it. I'm just being an old sook because I liked having her close. But anyway, shit happens. Move on, as they say. Moving on is what we will do tonight. Now, I'm going to spend a bit of time tonight talking, I guess, about the politics of the nation. Tomorrow, there will be two bills put before the Parliament that will be rushed through. And according to Pauline Hanson and One Nation, it appears that those bills will be guillotined through, meaning there will be little or no debate. And I don't know how that is conscionable to any political party, Labor, Liberal or Green, on such big issues confronting this nation. Now, if you thought by splitting the omnibus bill into two bills, and as Albo came out on the steps the other day and flirted his way through, they were dropping sections 3 and sections 5. Section 3 and section 5, and that was meant to keep everybody happy. Well, we've done a little bit of reading on all of that, and section 4 holds some very interesting and very direct language that will affect those people who would make public statements in a group or two groups, or who incite people in groups, all sorts of things. So that is not legislation that the Australian people would support in any way, shape or form. But both the Labor Party and the coalition, the Liberal, National, pathetic, pink-coloured mob, whatever they are not providing any alternative to this nation. Absolutely no alternative whatsoever. But One Nation today have had quite an uplift. There's been a poll taken, a news poll, I think, for The Australian, who put it out today, and it showed that One Nation had risen to 22 percentage points of approval. That's 1% more than the Liberal Party, who had dropped 3% down to 21, and still trailing the Labor Party. Pauline Hanson came out, obviously, today to acknowledge this news publicly.
This is the first poll in Australia's history that another party is polling higher than one of the major parties. I am proud to acknowledge One Nation is polling higher than the Liberals.
Higher than the Liberals. Why would that be, Liberal Party? Could it be because you are so out of touch with your voter base and so entrenched in the lies of the game you are playing, you think you can pull the wool over the public's eyes and get away with it? It appears Pauline isn't going to let that happen. She is not afraid to articulate the issues that are concerning
Mass
Australians.
migration has also been a huge, big issue for a lot of Australians. They've been now for years calling out to this government, pull back on it. Lack of housing, jobs, security, cost of living. It's a combination of a lot of things. And what they're looking for is someone who really cares about their country, about them, and about the future of the nation.
Do you think if...
So what's the biggest thing that Australia is lacking at the moment? Well, leadership, guts in leadership, strength in leadership. You've not got any of that in that sleazy block of shit they've currently wheeled into the lodge called Albanese. And right now, he must be starting to feel the pressure to bail. And the only way he can do that is to resign, right? The party can't vote him out of the job. He has to resign. Now, will we start hearing, because I have heard there is talk and a bit of pressure behind the scenes to get Albo to step away. Pardon me. But it's the factions in the Labor Party who are fighting about who would step in for him. I haven't heard any names mentioned, but God, toss around a few and see what you think. At any rate, I think Pauline has articulated it pretty well here.
I think what Australia is lacking now, with both the major political parties, is leadership. And people have got to a stage, they're fed up, they've had enough. They're struggling with the cost of living. But I think that's also seen what happened at Bondi. And I think prior to that with Charlie Kirk, his assassination has been a big wake-up call for a lot of Australians.
This morning, Barnaby Joyce was on Sunrise. Somebody rang me and said, you've got to go and watch this performance of Barnaby on Sunrise. And I thought, oh, okay, who was he up against? And they said, oh, some bald guy with glasses. They're talking about Murray Watt, who isn't bald, but he may as well look like it. Well, he got turned inside out this morning on Sunrise. And Murray Watt is one of the star underperformers of the Labor Party. He's one of those little henchmen that sneaks around in the darker corners and, sweeps up the shit of people like Tony Burke and tries to build a castle out of it and tell us it's made of gold. That's the kind of human being that Murray bloody Watt is. But at any rate, he came across Barnaby this morning, and I think Australia met a very different Barnaby Joyce.
People want a dynamic change. You've talked about housing, but you haven't fixed housing. You've talked about cost of living, but you haven't fixed cost of living. You've talked about immigration, but you haven't done anything about it. We're about to see what these sort of hate speech laws, but it seems like almost like sort of a boondoggle for every pet cause the Labor Party ever had, but was looking for a reason to put it into legislation. Let's see what it actually ends up looking like. But the hard decisions about making decisions about who comes into Australia and whether they're going to love Australia or spit on Australia, I don't think you'll see the Labor Party make those decisions because they're scared of being decisive. And just watch them by their actions, not by what they say.
Yeah, Murray.
exactly right. Watch them by their actions, not what they say. Albanese has told you that this new omnibus bill that's been split into two is exactly what everybody wanted. We've placated everything. It'll go through. It'll be fine. Well, the fact of the matter is he is lying to you. They have omitted certain things for sure, but they have still left in, pardon me, a large number of items that would find most Australians thinking they are overreaching and certainly impinging on our personal freedoms and what could be freedom of speech issues, even though freedom of speech is not enshrined in this country. But Barnaby Joyce performed very strongly
free
this
country.
morning.
There are Australians out there who are going to change their vote. There are members of Parliament, it's in 2026, who, if they choose to, will go to other parties. We've seen it with Greens going to the Labor Party. We've seen it with Nats going to the Liberal Party. We've seen it with Nats going to One Nation. Welcome to a free Western democracy where these sort of things can happen, and get used to it. It's not that unusual.
Get used to it. It's not that unusual. I beg to differ, Barnaby. It's probably not unusual for the last year or so in certain countries around the world, but it certainly is very unusual here in Australia. And for One Nation to be given the privilege, the respect, the honour of being placed in, I mean, okay, it's only a news poll, and it's only a poll. We shouldn't go and get too socially excited about it. But it is the first time in history, as Pauline pointed out, that a minor party has knocked off one of the two mains in a likability race around the nation. And I've got to tell you, if they play their cards right here, this is only the beginning of a very, very large wave. They need something to carry that momentum along, and I'm sure they'll find it. There's plenty of things floating around and opportunities for them, but they need to ride that wave and grow it. And I think just the wave naturally sweeping past certain parts in this country is going to pick up a phenomenal amount of voters, particularly in the regional areas. And now, once again, rather than thinking about how they're going to field a full string of candidates across both houses in the next election, about 2 months before the next election, now is the time to start looking at those people and who you're going to put into each seat in the lower house and in the Senate. I mean, One Nation is well represented in the Senate, not enough to carry the balance of power. We at least need to get them that, I would say. But wouldn't it be great if One Nation could get either under their own name or through a coalition of their own? I'm only just thinking of this and throwing it out there. It's a bit of a throwback to something that has been mooted for a couple of years, particularly from the northern reaches of far north Queensland, that some of those minor parties band together. And at that time, you would call One Nation a minor party. Any party that isn't the Liberal Nats or the Labor Green machine are considered minor, even though the Greens are minor. What One Nation now have the ability to do with the likes of the Katter Australia Party and others is unite all Australians under one banner. It's clear that when this sort of unification was mooted over the last couple of years, there were obstacles in leadership. Who would lead what, where, and how? But it is now clear that the nation has decided that Pauline Hanson and One Nation are who they choose to give the baton to become an alternative to the shit we've gone through over every election cycle that I can remember. And I've been voting for over 40 years. Well, I haven't been voting for over 40 years. There have been elections in the last 40 years that I could have chosen to be involved with. And then sometimes I was. Mostly I wasn't. So I might choose to get involved in this one. This level of support for One Nation is, as I say, only the beginning. While One Nation might be shocked now to be 1 point ahead of the Liberal National Party, who lost 3 points in this poll to drop down to 21, it should be noted that the Labor Party, who that twat Murray Watt, I said twat, didn't I? Yes, right. That twat Murray Watt belongs to, they lost 4 points. They lost more than the Liberal Party to One Nation. Now, the Labor Party have a lot more to worry about, because if One Nation breaks free of the Liberal National Party and keeps taking votes from them, it won't be long before they will overtake the Labor Party as preferred leaders of the country. And while at the moment it would be unfair and completely impossible to run Pauline as a Prime Minister, they are, I guess, trying to run comparisons and approval ratings for individuals. And Albanese still has a higher approval rating at the moment than Pauline Hanson does. But Pauline Hanson can't become Prime Minister. She sits in the Senate. Barnaby Joyce sits in the lower house at the moment, but anything's possible after the next election. They need to be able to maintain this wave and ride this wave and grow this wave using all the tools that are available to them. Today, Pauline posted this on Facebook. Labor, the coalition of the Greens, plan to ram through 2 separate bills in one afternoon, even though One Nation and the public have more questions, a lot more questions. This is known as a guillotine motion because it cuts off debate. The Prime Minister never even responded to the letter asking for her ban to be lifted. Now, if you're wondering what that is, Pauline wore a burqa into the Senate in one of the last sitting days in the last week of the Parliament, and they suspended her, I think, for 7 sitting days. That meant that she couldn't sit in the last 2, I think it was the last 2 of last year, and she won't be able to sit in the first 5 of this year. That means that these 2 bills will not be able to be voted on by Pauline Hanson. That means that all the people that Pauline Hanson represents in the state of Queensland will go unrepresented. Their vote will go uncounted in whatever happens in that parliament tomorrow and the next day. It is absolutely friggin' disgusting. Anyway, let's go back to her thing. So Pauline won't be able to vote on the floor. Australians have seen a complete lack of leadership from both Labor and the coalition during this debacle. Could not agree more. As more Australians give their support to One Nation, we will continue to set the agenda, hold the politicians to account, and lead Australia to a better future. There's 3 or 4 KPIs that we've got on the vofhq.com website that they've ticked off right there in that statement. Now, in fact, we should just take note of those things that they've pointed out there, Vince, and put them up as what they've promised to achieve, or that's how they're swinging us, versus what they do wind up achieving in maybe 5 years' time. We could look at that. Might be worth looking at. Words, after all, can be easily printed out. ChatGPT does it all the time. Not that I'm suggesting for one moment that ChatGPT wrote anything for Pauline there. I think that's all her. And I think she's very genuine in what she's saying. People are going to say, "Oh, you've given up. You've turned traitor on us, Carl. You're getting away from the whole thing." No, I'm not getting away from the whole thing. Do I actually believe that voting our way out of this can work for a variety of reasons? I don't believe. But the main reason I don't believe we can't be voting our way out of this isn't because of the good people that we might be able to vote into that place. It's not because of the good people Pauline Hanson might be able to gather into One Nation and who want to stand and represent you and your town and your area's feelings, wants, desires, and needs going further, rather than having someone who pretends to represent you and instead represents the best business, the best interests of big corporate business or whatever brown paper bag comes with the best idea, if you know what I mean. These people are corrupt from the ground up, but they're the ones who are already in the job. We cannot tar One Nation or, if you like, any Australia or other United Australia members, anybody like that who would stand up with that sort of brush, because I genuinely believe they are like you and I, good people. And if you go in to that sort of a group and you're lucky enough, not lucky enough, if you are fortunate enough, if you are honoured enough to be elected by your peers, the people in your community, to represent them in that place, then I would hope you would be picking out those who would be doing it for the wrong reasons amongst you. And that doesn't mean you have to join One Nation. That just means you run as an independent and take your chances. But right now, One Nation and Pauline Hanson, Barnaby Joyce, and I haven't heard anything out of Malcolm Roberts yet, but I suspect we will in the not too distant future, are and have been fighting for our rights for a long time. If we can get more people in to support them, and we can get an undertaking from One Nation that they will be more than aware of the dangers and the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy that is where the evil lays. I was talking about this with someone this afternoon on the phone. I'm not sure if it wasn't Vince, where I said, I want to know the people who write the legislation, because those are the people, the slimy maggots, who know how to stitch a loophole into legalese into the legislation, which is exactly what they've done with Section 4. You think, all the bad stuff's been taken out of this omnibus bill? Not at all. Not at all. Section 4 is definitely one you want to be all over. And speaking of being all over, you will find in in the descriptions in this show on all of the channels, I hope Vince posted it into all the channels, you will find in the description a link to go and join this website. This is the Stop the Hate Crime Bill website. Use the platform below to quickly email senators, using them to vote no to Labor's hate speech bill. It works best on smartphones doing this. So if you are watching it on a smartphone, then you might have a look. I'm going to try and generate a letter, and I'll show you how this works. It may not do it because I'm working on a computer. So it's having a thought. So what it does here is it generates a reasonably generic email that will say you don't want any senator or House representative to vote yes for this bill. You want to send it to every Labor and every Liberal and every Green. You want to send it to every independent, because let's be honest, do we really trust Jackie Lambie? I mean, could you trust her? Labor are likely to come out and swing, half a rose and a full bottle of wine, and they'll have her votes for the next 2 years. So I don't think that that's a solution. We need to be able to get these people to unite behind One Nation, who are right now appearing to have a lot more of the people's support in Australia than has ever been present before for any other party. They deserve to be congratulated. Did they win that by great policies and good political decision making? In part, yes. Did they also benefit from the absolute shit fight that is Anthony Albanese and the Australian Labor Party? Absolutely. And have they benefited from what is sadly for the Conservatives, what I would say the worst Liberal National Party lineup in my living history? I can't remember a weaker opposition. I can barely remember the new leader's name. What's her name? Susan Lee or Lay or Lie or... Doesn't really work for me. And I know it's not working for many of you. Not many people at all are enamoured with the Liberal Party or the National Party. Although David Littleproud today did come out and say that they are still very much in opposition to the gun laws. That's great. That's the leader of the Nationals nationally coming out and saying that. In Queensland at the moment, I'll just remove this. In Queensland at the moment, though, you'll find that it is the only state refusing to support the national gun buyback reforms. And it's being reported, all over. So the likes, what have we there? I can't read that, Vince, so you're going to have to come on and explain it all to me. Oh, the political convention. By a long-standing convention, the Prime Minister is expected to sit in the House of Representatives. This is because the government is formed in the House. Confidence and supply is determined in the House. Question time and day-to-day accountability mainly occurs there. Because of this, senators serving... Yeah, it would have been better going down, senators serving as a PM is expected to move to the House as soon as practicable. Right. So, all right. Constitutional position. Under the Australian Prime Minister, the Prime Minister is not directly mentioned in the Constitution. Ministers, including the Prime Minister, must be or become a member of the Parliament of Australia. That means the Prime Minister may be a member of the House of Representatives or a member of the Senate. Righto. Okay, so the mechanism to swap her from the Senate to... Thanks, Vince. The mechanism to swap her from the Senate to the House then would be by-election, you would think. They can't just do a straight swap. So it would require a by-election. The country would need to pay for.
Well, no, not necessarily. It would mean that she'd have to move as soon as practical. As soon as practical could be the next election. She doesn't have to. She could still be a senator.
Well, so let me throw this at you. If One Nation had gained, let's say, 33% support by the time the election comes around and Labor and Liberal Party are straggling down there in the lower 20s, would she jump out of the Senate before the election and go to stand in a House seat in Queensland?
Quite possibly. Most probably. If the numbers and the polls look like it, I reckon that is a possibility. I'm just trying to remember whether her term comes at this time round or next time round. I think she's actually up for election next time. This time. I
think she is next time round, yeah. So
next time, this time. That's the question.
No, next time. I think it was Malcolm Roberts last time who was up. And
so they get 6 years. So he's got 6 years. So she was 3 years before that. So that means it's her time. I'll check that. Carry on. You keep going. I'll be back.
Good on you. Don't know how much more I've got, really. I would think that we have an opportunity now. It's become quite clear with that poll, if you can believe the polls, that One Nation has a vast amount of support across this nation. And that will come from a lot of people on our side of the fence as well. We must also remember that there were 3.2 silent, if you like, votes in the last election, because they were people who couldn't be bothered getting out of bed and walking to the local school to vote, because they could not find anything worth getting out of bed and voting for. Hear to them. That might change remarkably by the time the next election comes around. If One Nation, and Vince and I have spoken about this, some other friends and I have spoken about this, the problem will be being able to maintain that level, that wave of support for the next 2.5 years, and not just maintain it, but grow it. And to do that, what do they need? Well, they need to show leadership. And I think Pauline is doing that. I think Barnaby Joyce is backing her up very ably. And I'm a bit disappointed to see Malcolm Roberts. Well, I'm a bit disappointed not to see Malcolm Roberts as much. I understand that the mainstream media at the moment are focusing on the whole Barnaby Joyce crossing over sort of thing. But I believe Malcolm Roberts has been a very valuable servant to the people of Australia, and not just in his constituency of Queensland. And he has been a very valuable member of the One Nation team. Now, I don't want to get into chats about leadership and infighting of who should be leaders and deputy leaders and all that sort of stuff. But at the moment, I think Barnaby Joyce is the new shiny toy in town, and he just happens to be the only player in the House of Representatives. But Malcolm Roberts has done a lot for the Australian people, has done a lot. He can lay his hat and lay claim to a lot of those numbers that have gone into supporting One Nation's poll result today are directly because of Malcolm Roberts's work in the Senate, particularly in Senate estimates, where he and his team are relentless on the bloody bureaucrats who try as hard as they possibly can not to answer any questions. And it seems like a game to them.
The answer is 2031 for Malcolm Roberts and Pauline Hanson. So
what was that? Oh, they're both on the same.
They're both on the same thing. So we got them for another 6 years. All right. So
okay,
just to let you know,
I didn't realise that Pauline was in that last election. There you go.
There you go. Yep. So while you're at it, don't forget to mention that this bill still contains the ability for this Parliament. This is the one they're going to ram through tomorrow. Still maintains the ability for them to designate hate groups.
Yes, that's probably the big link. So that would mean groups like My Place, should they say something the government doesn't agree with, keep your nipples there, mate. Just be careful. Groups like My Place can be not just shut down, but people can go to jail.
Yeah.
What for? Well, for nothing, literally nothing. You don't have to prove there's been an offence. You don't have to prove there's been anybody offended. You don't have to prove that you were trying to cause offence, much less that anybody was offended, or that you were trying to create some form of uprising. None of that has to be proved. It just has to be said.
Let me give you an example of how that could work. Right? It could be said straight out, right, that if we put out something like an ad for My Place and said, we're a great Australian community group, right? that could be taken as we are saying that Australians are better than anybody else, and therefore we have now committed a hate crime against immigrants that may have come in from England or Germany or whatever, purely because we specified ourselves as Australian and we're making ourselves superior. That's how finite they can be on that regulation. It's just crap. Sorry, I'll get off. I'll give you a show back.
It's all right, mate. You're all good. I'm very blessed to have you pushing buttons in the background and keeping an eye on the chat for me. It allows me to focus a little more on what I'm doing here. So Pauline has released the schedule for tomorrow at the Parliament, and here is basically the directions given by the Labor Party. If by 10 p.m. consideration of the bills has not concluded, that means if they haven't made a debates or whatnot haven't finished at that stage, questions haven't been asked, bad luck, then all questions on all remaining stages to be put without debate. So they don't even have to get to the bills to debate them. They can go to the one beforehand and say, look, it's all running too late. We're just going to push it all through now. Everything else goes through without debate. And then they head off to the parliamentary piss house, have a few beers and a feed before going off to, whatever abode they're sharing with whatever other rock spider happened to be floating around Canberra that night. These are horrible, disgusting human beings who will screw this country inside out. They are shafting us. And on a day where Pauline Hanson appears to have stepped up with One Nation, and the nation has recognised her and One Nation as a group of individuals that might just be able to be the alternative. And this is what I was saying before, the likes of the Katter Party and the likes of Palmer United. There is no more squabbling now. The nation has chosen One Nation as their one shot at an alternative to the criminals who've been running the nation for the last few years. That might be very hard for the likes of Clive Palmer and Bob Katter to hear, but it's true, sadly for them, but it's great for the nation. Now, if Bob and Clive want to get behind the nation, as both of them truly have said they really want to be behind the nation, then great. It shouldn't matter who the leader is. What should matter is how strong the support for that leader and that party is going forward in this election. I personally would want to see huge undertakings. No, I beg your pardon. I would just like to see normal undertakings for huge changes to the bureaucracy as one of the first orders of business that any alternative government, we, the people, give the honour to form. The only way that Pauline and co will get that honour and privilege is if they follow through on the promises that we are given by them. And we must ask for the things we want. They may not know, they may not be able to bring them up, but we must ask for the things we want. And that's what Vince is putting up there. These are our KPIs. What we must have from an alternative government, from One Nation going forward. And go to vofhq.com and add your own there. Have a look. And if you want, just leave a comment in support of some of the other ones that are there, if that's the way you feel. But we would like to hear what you think One Nation has to do. And I'm not sure that the bureaucrat point is put in there because I haven't put it in. But if somebody else puts it in, that'd be great. But I firmly believe that we can elect the best people in this nation to lead this nation going forward. I'm sure we can do that. What I'm equally sure of is as soon as they get to that place in Canberra, They are poisoned by the bureaucracy. They are hamstrung by the bureaucracy. They are manipulated, manhandled, coerced, corralled, and funneled by that bureaucracy. That bureaucracy is what subverts the will of we the people. It's not so much the muppets that we put into government, like Tony Burke, Anthony Albanese, the woman leading the Liberal Party, whatever her name is, and whoever might be her subordinate. Oh, Andrew Hastie standing up. I think we can probably see which way this will go. Lay hasn't got a foot to stand on. She's going to capitulate now. She's going to vote with the Labor Party tomorrow, and her Liberal National Party will fall in line behind her. That will allow these god-awful bills to get through. What you need to do, folks, is take that link in the description of tonight's show and generate the email. It won't generate the email on my computer, and I haven't done it on the phone to show you. So take my word for it, though. Apparently it does do it. Vince did it, so he knows that it works. So that website is available in the description, and I'll post it into the chat here so folks in the chat can simply get on it as well. If
just add
that
your
makes
couple
it a bit
of
easier.
lines of just add your couple of lines of comment, tell it to generate. Now, if you have trouble getting into the website, it's getting hammered. Just letting you know, it's getting absolutely hammered. So when you get there, post it in, hit generate. It took 10 minutes to generate my little letter. And then once I got that, it gave me every email address as well to email them. So you'll get all you need off that one page. So, and thank you very much to the person who put that together, which we won't know. But yeah.
That was one of Joel's things, wasn't
it? Yeah, it was Joel Jamal. He spent all last night putting it together. So good on him. Thank you very much, Joel.
Well, as I found out a little earlier this afternoon, there are over 7,000 submissions that have been put in against the omnibus bill and or derivatives thereof it. That is 7,000 submissions that people sitting in the government and in the opposition and the backbenchers are all meant to read. They're all meant to read, comprehend what the people are saying in those emails. Do they? Will they? Well, here's your opportunity to find out. What I didn't do was put in some optional personalization. I think it requires the personalization. So put in one or two sentences so it can generate something for you. But make sure you do that, because by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, it would be amazing to have 25 or 100,000 submissions that we could point to the government as ignoring totally. It would be great ammunition for Pauline Hanson and a great test for One Nation to see what they can do with that going forward. And I don't mean in the Parliament, because there's nothing they can do in the Parliament. But my God, the ammunition it would give them in the public to gain a new respect from people who maybe haven't looked at One Nation before from a potential voting capacity, because this will give them all the ammunition they need to go down and shoot the Liberal, National, Labor, Green consortium in the arse, really, as often as she likes, until the next election. And I've got the funny feeling that every time she shoots this corporate conglomerate in the arse, you're going to hear ting, ting, because these tin asses are well out of luck, folks. Shit out of luck. That whatever you're saying would be much better if we could actually hear you.
Yeah, you see, I was too busy laughing in the background. Sorry about that. One thing to remember is, just love that ting. Brilliant, Carl. Absolutely brilliant. One thing to remember, even though they won't get a chance to read our emails, what will happen is the counter of the incoming emails will go up in the box so massive, and their little subordinates are going to come along and say, oh shit, there's like 100,000 messages sitting in the mailbox. How are we going to get through them all? And they're all about this bill. So that's where it has its punch. Okay?
Yes, that's exactly right. We fill up the inboxes with them, and that way those that advise their ministers and representatives advise them there is a shitload of mail in support of what we're doing or against what you're planning on doing. And if the Liberal Party and the National Party, as it appears, are still so tone deaf to the public that they would vote with Labor and the Greens tomorrow to get these bills through, then quite frankly, their popularity level could plummet into the teens very quickly, with One Nation accelerating above 30 by the time the next news poll is done next week. This is a great example, folks, of how big government, big corporate government, who doesn't work for the Australian people, they work for the Australian corporation registered in America. They don't work for us. But it certainly does appear that Pauline Hanson wants to. And I don't know, I've got a gut feeling she and the people I think around her really do have Australia and Australians' best interests at heart. I really do think she will fix the immigration problem. She's been talking about it for 30 years. I think she's got a good handle on it. So I wasn't going to turn the whole show over to this tonight, but it's just sort of worked out that way. But I believe going forward we have something pretty significant here, an opportunity of great significance, and we need your input. Because while I'm not one to generally support going out and trying to vote our way out of this shit fight, if we are going to do it, as Vince ardently argues, we have to give this the best go we've got. And that means saying, righto, Pauline, we will put the power of the nation behind you. We will help every way we can. And in fact, I will help every way we can. You might be quite surprised. Some of that help might have already been offered. Because I want to see this succeed. I want them to get in, be elected, become leaders of this nation, and change it for the better. But to do that, we need KPIs. And that way we can tick off after their first term. Well, here are the things that, you agreed we should be looking for. And have you managed to do any of those in that first 4 years or 3 years or whatever it is? I think that's what we need. So please go to vofhq.com and put down any suggestions you have for our KPIs there. And I'll make sure that the team at One Nation get them. They're answering my texts again. I don't have an update on Wade for whoever asked that question. Belinda, look, they've asked for just to be left alone for a bit of privacy. And I understand that completely. So I don't want to go hassling them. I only spoke via messenger to Belinda a couple of days ago. So the stroke was quite severe, is all I've heard since then. And Wade is fighting. He's a real fighter, as we all know. And unfortunately, there are some unscrupulous bastards out there who are trying to make money off Wade's condition. So if you have been approached in any way, shape or form to donate or go to a GoFundMe page for Wade at Billboard Battalion, please don't. Please just ignore it, register it as a spam or as an illegal scam, because that's exactly what it is. Nobody on Wade's team has authorized nor asked for, nor do they want a GoFundMe page. set up in Wade, set up to help Wade at the moment. Should that be necessary, and or you feel you'd like to make a contribution anyway, then you can do that at Billboard Battalion's website, billboardbattalion.com /donate, I think it is. And you can donate directly to Billboard Battalion there. No need to go to a GoFundMe page or any bullshit like that. Wade and his team are not involved in anything to do with raising funds for Wade. Okay? So please do not contribute in any way, shape, or form there. So, yes, thank you, Fern, and others for your prayers for Wade. And I'm sure Belinda, Nick, and the rest of the family are very aware, and I'll certainly pass them on from time to time. But I don't want to hassle them. I also have another, as we're doing health updates, I've got a little bit of a health update on Guru, not that I've spoken to him at all, but he is on the mend. He's doing as best as can be expected at the moment, and apparently doing okay. So good luck to you, brother. Speedy recovery, and hope to talk to you real soon. So 2 of our Freedom Family brothers have been knocked over and are fighting their way back up, folks. So keep them in your prayers, will you? As we continue the fight into 2026. And well, I got to be honest, this will be the last time I would really be giving the voting thing as any kind of an option. But if I'm going to give it 100%, and I can tell you, I'm motivated enough to give it 100%. And with this level of support already, I can think of a number of ways where they could keep riding this wave and keep going forward. Whether or not they choose to do those sorts of things or not, who knows? I'm not part of the party, but I can see a way forward for this, and I can see a very exciting future in 3 years' time, and quite possibly some of the biggest changes, not just in our lifetimes, but in generations to Australian politics. It would be pretty awesome. And we wouldn't have to put up with that any longer. I'm trying to figure out what game Penny's playing there. I'm biting my tongue. Putin, he's picked out a new enemy, and it is not who you might think. He's decided that Ukraine is no longer the enemy. And that's not such a bad thing if he's decided that they're no longer the enemy. But who is the enemy? Well, that would be the EU, the Rothschilds, and their puppets who are controlled throughout the EU. In a bizarre and radical pivot, Vladimir Putin has redefined the enemy as an ongoing European conflict. State media is now reporting that Russia is shifting its operational focus from fighting NATO and Ukraine to dismantling the financial influence of the Rothschild family and the Western banking elites in Europe. This narrative shift serves 2 critical strategic goals for the 2026 timeline. It aligns with Musk's puppet master theory, just days after Elon Musk claimed that Western politicians are actors controlled by unseen scriptwriters. Putin is effectively naming the villains in that script. He's telling the European public, your leaders are puppets of the Rothschilds. I'm fighting the puppeteers, not you. It also facilitates the European reset by framing the war as a crusade against a corrupt financial cabal rather than against the nations of France or Germany. Putin creates the political space to offer the unconditional restoration of ties he announced earlier. He's giving European populists the moral excuse to stop supporting Ukraine. Why die for the bankers? This marks the transition from kinetic war, that's tanks and bombs, to hybrid financial war, cyber attacks on SWIFT, seizing assets and funding anti-bank populist movements. It's effectively declaring that the old order of Europe is the target, not its people. Wow. What do you think that plays into if you're talking about silver prices? Well, silver and gold, if I'm honest, because gold has had quite the kick today. $6,978.19 it's sitting at the moment, with silver sitting at $139.12 for an ounce. That's at ainsleyBullion.com.au. You can order online. There are a few red dots saying delivery pending on a few things. But rest assured, there are orders already in place to have those stocks replenished, and the Perth Mint have taken the orders, say they're going to be filled. And I would expect that you'll see randomly those out of stock or out of delivery or soon to be delivered signs will be replaced by nothing at all, in which case it means they've got them in store and you'll be able to go and get them. But watch for the dips, folks. Watch for the dips. The dip was over the weekend. It was down to $134. And if you didn't buy over the weekend and you decided to buy first thing this morning when the markets opened, it jumped $3 in seconds. And I think closed will close over $5 higher. So, yeah, there's Vince bringing up the candles there. There have been pushbacks that have just been crushed, is the easiest way to say that. Demand, and that is the demand for physical silver, not paper silver. The demand for physical silver is through the roof. As I'm sure any of you know, if you've gone into any of the bullion dealers around the country, even there's a bullion dealer not far from me in a little town from here. I happened to drive past the other day. He had people outside lined up. Now, that's because he can probably only deal with one person in the shop at a time. But even still, it's the first time I've seen people lined up out there. So keep an eye, if you like. Tradeview.com is the website Vince has up there at the moment. And you'll be able to get a load of this. It's a live tracker. Tells you exactly what's going on in a variety of different scales, from years to minutes. And we're looking at the minute scale there at the moment. So and there are a few other things on the side, commodities you can check out as well, which will be gold and Bitcoin. I think Vince tries to keep on his side of things. So yeah, silver's not doing too badly, folks. You've got to be pretty happy.
That's the 4-hour chart.
That's the 4-hour chart. Right, there you go.
Yeah.
So that's just essentially this afternoon. So could you just zoom it out and show me the day, Vince? Because where the day started, which will be the top of that last red block, I'm guessing. Oh, no, it'll be those 3 flat red blocks. So you can see there the little red candles. They are immediately pushed back by the market. Yeah, you can see that where Vince has just circled. And then there's a gap between that and the green thing. That's because that's when the market was closed, right? Closed over the weekend. You can see as soon as the market opened, it went bunta, straight up, and there was a little bit of a pullback. Then it kept going again and again. It was over, and I think at 41 cents at one stage, I saw $141 at one stage an ounce. Now I think I can't read that, but I'm guessing it's around 139, where it's been sitting for most of the afternoon. Bearing in mind that New York hasn't even opened yet, I don't think, or it won't be long before it does. And there will be a pounding once again. Which way will it go? Probably a little pullback, but it's going to keep going up, folks. You have not missed the boat yet. And even just having a look through Ainslie Bullion's prices online and noticing what an ounce of an Ainslie round costs now. It's $157 compared to the 36 or the 38 when we first started this show. I know many of you bought them. It's got a good little smile on your face, hasn't it? I'm so happy so many of you have had such success, and some of you have had huge success in just a few days. Some people have contacted me recently. One person I know put in $150,000 that had just been sitting in a bank doing absolutely nothing, and they made $25,000 in 2 days. That's better than having it sitting in a bank for 2 years or more, probably 10 years. Can't imagine a bank's ever going to give you $25,000 in interest, let alone $25,000 in 2 days. So that's the kind of play you can have at the moment. There are people who are starting to come alive because they haven't collected silver, they've collected gold. But now they've realized that they can sell an ounce of gold, buy near enough to $7,000 worth of silver, and flip that back into gold a few days later. More gold, I should say, an ounce and a half or 2 ounces, depending on how much they've got and what they're flipping. But that's what playing the market does. They're hedging the silver and the gold and riding both up waves pretty much at the same time. You've got to watch I guess you've got to be watching the screens 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you stand great potential of losing as much as you could gain. So would this be a practice that I would go and do? This is not something that I would do. Mr. Bill, I would agree. Next week, another 25,000. For those who've been able to go and buy smaller amounts, and I don't even know if I'm allowed to do this. Am I allowed to do this? Oh, fuck it, I'll do it. I know somebody who has 100-ounce bar for sale. If you are looking for a 100-ounce bar, you will find them impossible to buy at the moment. But if you want a 100-ounce bar and you have a spare $15,000, then I can put you in touch with the person who you will know, or you probably will know, and you can have the bar tested. You can make sure it's all good, and we can get it to you if that's what you'd like to do. But you'll want, somewhere between 14 and 15 grand for it, because let's face it, by the time you wake up tomorrow morning, it's probably going to be worth every bit of 15 or 16 grand. So if you're interested, carl@vofhq.com, and I will put you in touch with the person who has that in their hot little hand. They've also got a silver coin they want to sell, which is a Canadian maple. I think they've just got whatever the face value for that is, or the value for that is at the moment, which will be about $150 or more. So if you're up for that, I can link you up with this person and help you out. Tragically, they need a bit of money at the moment, and I haven't had the opportunity to figure out another way, but we might be able to find another way yet, but depends. They might need all of that money for whatever they're doing. So if that's the case, then that's the case. If you are interested, email me, carl@vofhq.com. Silver over $150 an ounce soon. Yes, I would agree. What are we? Monday, and we're at 140. I think, given the way the market has played out in the last 2 weeks, as I've said last week, I'd be amazed if we weren't at it by the middle of this week or by the end of this week at the absolute latest. By the end of February, $200 an ounce US is what I am predicting. And I have no reason other than listening to a whole heap of crap that ordinarily I've never been interested in, and now I appear to be glued to. But a lot of analysis. I'm reading a lot of analysis from Ainslie Analytics or Ainslie Insights, and I'm listening to a whole heap of people who know a whole heap more about silver than I do online. And my analysis is that the US market has to catch up with the Western market has to catch up with the Eastern market. And at the moment in the East, the price of an ounce of silver is $138 US and going up. The demand is increasing. They're not making any less silver. Well, they're not making any more of it soon. even if there were old silver mines, and there are old silver mines being opened up again, they're going to take 2 years before they are in production, any meaningful production. And even then, it'll be a drop in the ocean. It'll be 5 years before any new mines that are found, approved, started, are producing anything that's viable. So realistically, there's not going to be a great deal more silver floating around in the world other than through the means they get it now, which is as a byproduct of mining for zinc and tin and other bits and pieces. Silver is a byproduct, and 71% of the world's silver currently is from that byproduct. That's going to change. They'll crack those silver mines back open again, because now with the price where it is, it's worthwhile doing it. And there is a long way to go with the price. Somebody asked me today, "Oh, how high do you think it'll go? How high do you think it'll go?" And I said, "Well, I hear a lot of different things. I hear $700 an ounce this year. I hear could be $10,000 an ounce this year. I hear I believe if it's going to be $10,000 an ounce, it's going to take a few years for that to happen. Gold, on the other hand, I believe will be at 10,000 an ounce before the year's out, probably before mid-year. So if that goes that way, then silver will be dragged up with it, have absolutely no doubt. You churned out a price in Gronk, I call it, Grok recently, and 300 was agreed with, up to 3,000 if a major war breaks out. Yep. I think if the war goes kinetic, you could see it into the thousands very, very quickly, because those missiles all take silver, and they need to make more missiles if they're in a war. Every electronics instrument in war requires silver to a greater or a lesser extent. Every Chinese EV requires 1 kilo of silver in it. So your BYDs and your Cherries, all the new designs at any rate, all require 1 kilo of silver each in them. That's just for China. Samsung, on the other hand, they've introduced this new solid state battery that requires 1 kilo of silver. It's not going backwards, folks. It's only going up. And you might be like me, you don't have 2 shekels to rub together, but if you maybe had $2, you could win $750, and you can get into the market with that cash. You can buy some silver this week and make money out of it next week, although I would advise you to hang on to it, because you make more money out of it the week after, and probably a shitload more money out of it the week after that. But we would love to give you $750, or maybe the second prize, which is an ounce of Ainslie Bobs, the Byron Bobs. And for $2 at merch.vofhq.com, you would greatly help us get our lottery knocked out before we have a little bit of a revamp on what we're going to do with the lotteries going further. There are 500 and something odd tickets sold so far into this lottery, and we have had a problem, we've realized. So if you've been trying to buy a ticket in the lottery and haven't been able to, then please have another crack at it, because we did discover there was some sort of a problem, and Vince got into it and pulled the bug out of the machine, and now it's all working again. So we would love to be able to give you that $750 or the ounce of silver, which is going up and going up and going up. When we started out, those ounces of silver, I guess, were worth $52 or $55, I think, when we first started sending them out. And now they're worth 160 nearly. So for those of you that did get some of those Voice of Freedom Byron Bobs, got to be happy with that. Bit of a score. I'm really chuffed for you if you've got them. They're a very special thing, and we won't be able to afford to do that again, I don't think, unless Vince's new merchandise idea comes off.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
We have a new merch coming through, which will be direct order, direct ship. We're just putting together the bits and pieces now, but it means when you place the order, you will receive it within probably 7 to 14 days of placing the order. So, and there's going to be a lot more stuff available, including some very spicy T-shirts that we can make up. Oh, did I say spicy? Oh, maybe I better be careful on my words. All right, bye.
That's Vince not even waving, just running out of picture. Before I love you and leave you, folks, I'm going to give you a little something to look forward to. Coming up, new details about Dan Andrews and Bike Boy. It's now quite apparent that Dan Andrews was driving the vehicle that struck the young lad, 15-year-old boy on his bike. Dan Andrews then apparently rang the police, explained his wife was driving and that the kid had T-boned their car. Pictures are now available of the car, and more so, an ex-police officer who was tasked with working that job has some rather startling new revelations about it that might see Dan Andrews in more shit than a Werribee duck, as the old Melbourne saying goes. All right, folks, running a bit late tonight. I've managed to get through the show without bursting into tears or carrying on about Laura in any way, shape, or form. Don't forget to fly your Australian flag on Monday. Yes. Should point out, March for Australia happening in capital cities around the nation. Some of them are calling it something else. I don't know what it's called in Melbourne, but it'll be an Australia Day rally to remember. I have no doubt. In fact, also another poll was released yesterday or today that says there is now more support in Australia for Australia Day than ever before. More support to keep the date as as January the 26th than ever before. So that is truly great news. And I expect that we will see the streets flooded with people on Australia Day, our parks full, our beaches full, provided the weather is playing along. And I would love to see as many of you going along to support the March for Australia marches all around the country, regardless of which city or town you happen to live in. There's probably one near you. And if not, they'll be streamed online. I'm not sure that I'll be streaming them. My plan currently is that I would be up at the My Place event happening at Gunalda, just north of Gympie. Darren Bergwerf, I think, is coming up, and I'll have to find out. I was meant to pick him up from the airport if that's the case, but I'm hopeful that he will be turning up. And if that is the case, then I'll probably be up there on Australia Day rather than down in Brisbane. But anything's possible. Could be anywhere. You got you some Australia stickers from your car and your shirt. Bloody well done, Sunflower. Nothing quite like having some good Australia merchandise out for Aussie Day. We are sure that Woolworths are selling it this year, are we? Or anybody else? I haven't been into a Woolworths in I don't know how long. So let's hope. Not Firkin Invasion Day. No, certainly not. Now, Vince, because you've been putting all these wonderful things up, it's jammed to my computer. So you're going to need to play the outro and get me off the screen, if you can do that, because my screen's all jammed up. She no play while you'll play. So I'm going to say good night, folks. Wish you a wonderful evening. Please say a prayer. Keep Laura safe on the road for me while she heads her way back down to Victoria. And above everything, make sure that she and you stay away from the dickheads.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's ride!